Okay, so good morning. Let's start our class today. Okay, so today is week 7. So next week we are going to have a midterm. So do you feel nervous? No. Okay, so next week we are going to midterm. So first, every team need to give a presentation and also prepare your. You have to prepare. 没切过 Sorry. I have to switch to my screen. Today is week 7. I explain what we are going to go through today. Today we are going to talk about ultra large scale system. Okay. So what's an ultra large scale system? Can you give an example for IoT? Large scale. Very big system for IoT. No. You are going to build a large scale IoT system. How can you construct a system? Remember 357 rule, right? So you can think of this first. 3 is IaaS SaaS box. That's a cloud architecture, right? Service architecture. Then IoT has 5 layers. Right? We start possession layer, that's device, right? And the network there. Then we come to the middleware. Middleware sounds like a translator to translate different language, like a different protocol, different data. Then we do an operation, application layer, and business layer. Business layer sounds like for giving the executives an insight to tell your most important information. Right? But from the fundamental, what we should have once we are going to construct a network. Ultra system, something like a smart city, or the examples we start with the U-bike system. U-bike system is a big system, right? So smart city, autonomous vehicles. So since we talk about IoT, we need to build up the network. How can you construct the network? Now we are not talking about something indoor like Wi-Fi. Our Wi-Fi, right? But once you go outdoor and there is a big area, and then it can be terrorist trial, like a terrain trial. I mean the big area, and the aerials, marine, even submarine, underwater. How can you construct a network? So what is your answer for construct the network? It sounds there are not much choice. 5G, right? And what else? What else? 5G. But that consumes too much power. And the LoRa, and low power wide area, low power wide area network. So this can be LoRa, can be Sigfox. Okay, for licensed network like NB-IoT, it's like a second generation GSM system. I mean narrow wideband IoT. It's like quite similar to the 2G network. Okay. So it's very challenging to build a network to link everything together, especially these devices. They have some constraint on computing, on storage, even the capability for communication. Okay. So since they are low power, right? Low power. So that means they will not continuously sending data, right? They may only sending data by their schedule. For example, for your project, probably you will only send your data every hour or every 10 minutes because you want to save your energy or power, right? Okay, I mean your devices. You want to make your devices can survive longer, right? Okay, so that's what we are going to talk about today. And in first hour, in literature. And the second we are going to talk about is create a VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, on AWS platform. Okay, so you should be able to build a website. Okay, before I will ask students to build your project website on AWS. Later I feel, how can I say, once the class is over, then your website will disappear, right? So it's better to use something like a free platform, like Wix.com website. So even though we finished the class, you still can remain your website there. Okay, so that's. But anyway, we need to know how to build VPC and build a website. Create a VPC and build a website. And remember, last week we have used the SAM. Remember the SAM. So we build a local server. So we have IoT, the ESP32. We have Arduino, right? So we send we got the DHT11, the temperature and the humidity sensor. So we pass the information to a local server. But this is only original server. Think of, you create a server and you get the data, but the question is, if your customer or your boss is in Indonesia, in Thailand, or some other countries. So if we want to access your server, it can be quite difficult. It can connect, but it can be very slow, right? Okay, maybe your boss travel to Europe or United States. That can be even more far away from Taiwan. How can we give them a good quality of user experience? Right? So we are going to study the network and the content delivered. Okay, in module 5, it's talking about the network and the content delivery. Okay, so now what's the content delivery? Content delivery network. CDN. That's a service provided by AWS. Okay, so it makes sense. You got ideas. Why use AWS cloud service? Because you build the local server, right? But people may access, but it may cause a lot of latency. So how can we improve the quality? So we need to set up. We use this. We construct a global network. Okay. So remember when we start to introduce AWS, we have been introduced the region. And what's that? Availability zone, AZ. Taiwan doesn't have a region server, but Taiwan has availability zone, availability, AZ. So AZ, what's AZ? It's redundant computing, storage, networking service. Okay, it will be very helpful to improve your content delivery. Okay? So we are not just build the website. You need to think of how to pass the content to your customer. Okay, but of course, we have to know something basic. The basic is like IPv6 port, IPv6. I think we have introduced this before. Okay, but once we build up the virtual Wi-Fi cloud, since it's cloud, so that means you may have many users, internal users. But how many? You have to define how many IP you are going to have. Understand? Okay, so there is the technical term called CID, CIDR. If anyone can explain what is the CIDR? I think Julian can help to explain what is CIDR. What is CIDR? Your major is computer science, right? CIDR. Classless domain routing. No? No, you don't know? Oh, it's fine. Okay, you can check our Hangout. Okay, anyway, this part is inside. Then, in the subsection, networking is talking about applications. You need to construct, not just the user, you also need to construct the service entity. Don't worry, all this is in the Hangout. I just try to give you a briefing before we start. Okay, so you will not get lost. Yeah. Okay, and security is important. Okay, anyway, all of this is just like what we did last week. I mean, construct a local server. VPC is like original service. But this is a physical entity. 你知道意思吗？上礼拜我们不是做 SAP， 那个就是盖一个 server 在你的电脑上，那个叫做 original service 或者 original server， 对不对 ？The resources, the data you create is local， 懂吗？ And now I'm talking about how can we deliver the data to the world. Even the data from the tiny devices, tiny sensor. Okay. So in the last two sections, subsection, the root 53 is used to how can I say? They say fail over. For example, your number one server is failed. What happened? I mean, you build a website, right? But the website is failed. What will happen? What will happen? The service will stop, right? So you should have a backup server. This will use to help you to judge. Okay, so you will switch to the backup service. I mean, secondary. So that's the advantage of AWS cloud service. They are the same, but you can migrate your service to cloud because you can always have backup. So it was DNS domain name service. Like our school is a website. DNS is www.ntusd.edu.tw, right? Something like this. So this was direct to the IP. I don't remember, but it's something like 140.118, maybe 65 or 0.1, something like this. So this provides this service. Okay, so the main concept today we are going to deliver is the networking. How to construct the physical network and how to deliver. Okay, so you understand? The network including two portions. One is a physical network like a 5G, right? Like a Wi-Fi, that's radio part. But in the network, you still need to direct the data. Or we say once the data is grounded, right? You need to deliver this. You need to direct that. And for last hour, we will have 1 hour for you to discuss your final presentation, not final, your proposal. What are you going to do? And the basic network architecture, the system architecture. And the midterm, we will have 20 quiz. All the quiz will come from our AWS module exercise from 1 to 5. Okay. Okay, so ultra large scale system. I think I just explained this. This is a large scale system. So how can you construct a network? And the car, they are mobile. They are moving around. So it's very difficult to estimate the resources you need. Okay. So here we have examples. How can we design the network. If we have 500 drone, how are you going to arrange? All 500, for example, 500 drones, all of them link to control center. Do you think it's going to work? 500. Or we may have one of them as a leader, something like this. But anyway, this give a proposal. This is not always right. Okay, this is just an example. I find this on this article. Actually, we have to build this with a hierarchical architectures. So each each drone should have a capability for monitor and to keep safe. I mean, safety means flight safe, not cause collision to hit the other obstacles. Security is try to prevent, the attack from hacker. And private, you have to keep the sensitive information. So that's the basic capability of a drone. Okay, but once he is flying and he have to communicate with others, because he may lose control to those net connection with control center, it's possible. Okay, how can these drones can have self-awareness once it lost the connection, or he can use some other drones communication network to reach the data, to reach the message from the control center. Okay, so you will require two types of communication. One is you need to have sensors to detect the environment. The other one is try to communicate with some individual drone, and you also have to communicate with the network. Okay, so here is give examples. They use drone to check the power grid, the core. Okay, so like this one, this is an anonymous drone. No, people didn't know who is this. So if someone fly this into your group, can you detect? Can you detect some anonymous drones? If your system is like this, can you recognize someone which is not belong to your groups? It's very challenging, right? So here, give you examples. So you start from the position there, right? And then here has many functions like oscillation, authentication, signatures, cryptography, right? That's a position there, and that's a link there. adoption layer, trust node, and the 6 low power one pump. And that's a network layer, including IP safety, secure routing, transport, secure connections, and routing and the name service. And at the top is the application layer and the core app, access control, user application. It sounds quite complicated. So, if you are going to design a system like this, where can you start with? Okay, maybe we come back to the beginning of our class. What have we been talking about? We start with this, right? Physical layer, network layer, and lots of basic system interconnection model. So we know if we are going to secure the communication, where can we start with? Transportation layer, TLS. The latest version or the version for IoT is TLS 1.3. And or we want to secure the packet, we may use IPsec. And for transportation layer security, it can be 1.2, 1.3. So we need to start this. But this is just a basic, right? But based on the basic we learn, you have some basic knowledge, at least. You know what is the core app, right? What's core app? What's different between core app and MQTT? Core app is a kind of machine-to-machine communication protocol. It's binary. Okay? But it's based on what? It's based on server and the client architectures. If I request, then the client will respond. Okay, but MQTT is different. MQTT is like a broadcasting. The publish, and everyone subscribe. Subscriber can receive the message. Right? But it's based on request. Okay, I know there is too many terminology. I may not be able to explain everything, but it seems like this one, firewall, or the IDS, intrusion detection system. So if someone is going to attack you, some anomalous request, IDS will be help you to detect. Okay. So anyway, this is suggested architecture. It's more complicated, I understand. So once you are joining a company, it may ask you to do part of the jobs. 你要去工作，他就会叫你做某一个部分的工作，就这样。 So I think this is a very, very good reference. But different company, they do have their professionals or their advantages， 有他们的强项。This is just examples. Okay. And this is a submarine and the battleship. But how can you detect something underwater? If we are going to make something like a Wi-Fi app, some Bluetooth gateway, that may not make too much money. I mean, the profit could be not very high. Okay, because it's standardized products. Okay, everyone buy it, and that's a mass products productions. But if you are going to work something like a meter things, the profit is very high. That's why I know. 一般那种 WiFi 那种东西很便宜的，700块而已，那个赚不了什么钱，好像也没什么技术含量。现在大家都做这种这叫什么军工military industries products， 这个叫什么？这个叫boys 浮标。Okay, because underwater you may rely on sonar or other radios. Okay, so you are not just develop the hardware. You also need to consider the algorithms and how can you encrypt your data to make sure they are secure. 所以这个给你一个简单的概念，就是说，你必须要有一个群组的概念，然后它必须要有单机对单机的侦测能力感测能力，然后通讯能力，对 cloud 对这个单一的群体，那这个就是一般常见的它这个必须要 like this one, you have to have a self-awareness capability. For example, the drone is on fire, so you will automatically landing in a safe place. And they can detect, sense the environment. Okay, so throughout this chapter, we focus on the letter to highlight concepts and architecture, foundation, orchestrating and managing a small set of autonomous vehicle combined with human drive. Okay. So here, give a hierarchical emergency behavior methods. Okay. HEB brings two major benefits. Why we use hierarchical emergent behavior? First, obvious one is a bypass of the need to develop a highly complex algorithm. Okay. So we don't need to develop a very complicated algorithms. And the second, perhaps less obvious, but more important benefit is the HEB's intrinsic flexibility has the ability to handle anticipated corner cases. Okay, so that's two major benefits. of HEB, biological emergent behavior. So with HEB, we don't need to have high complex algorithms. For example, like this. The first layer is to make sure your cell is secure, right? And the second is the information toward your destination. I know it's not easy to understand, but when we start to look at this article, you will have a better comprehension to the ideas. Okay, this is like this one. I find this article from the IEEE. Anyway, here introduce two level approach. Okay, like this one. The level one is only for single vehicle control, and the second level is for apprentices. So what does it mean? Like this one. This can be your car, right? So if you are trying to get off the freeway, what will you do? You will try to send the information to the car beside you to tell them you are going to have you are going to change your lane, right? So the car in a different apprentice, they will be aware of you, right? Something like this. So one is local rules. First level, local rules. Second level is interpretation rules. So you are going to join the boot pattern from the right to the group. Okay, so something like what you have to do is maybe extend the distance between you and the car from you. 就是说你可能会拉长了车的距离，大概这样子。Okay, but of course, for physical devices, physical vehicles, you need to have many devices. Like now, there is one standard communication called dedicated short-range communications, DSRC. Okay, so you will be able to let your car to communicate with the car around you. And also, there's a roadside unit. These are roadside unit. So once your car receives the information from the roadside unit, this is a fixed radio station, small stations. So your car will be able to exchange or receive the information from the roadside unit. For human driver, probably you will just look at the sign and you will understand, right? You should get off. But for the autonomous vehicles, you will exchange the information with roadside unit. Okay, but there's a question. If your car, there's a we call onboard unit, OBU. Onboard unit. The car has onboard unit. But what if your car doesn't have an onboard unit? And how about the road doesn't have RSU? If you drive Tesla, in maybe, I'm not quite sure, but maybe in New York or Los Angeles, they do have this. Here it is in LA, they do have ROSA unit, but in Taiwan, we don't have this. You know what I mean? So even though your Tesla or your electric car, autonomous, it doesn't have to be electric car, but it have to be autonomous vehicles. If it doesn't have, what can your car react to the environment? Now, many companies, they are developing autonomous vehicle, including I forget the name. 这叫什么 Waymo. I think Google, they do have a company, but I forget if it's this or not. They was merged. Before Google, they have a division. They are developing the autonomous vehicle. Then later they merge with some company. Okay, that's Waymo. They do have a lot of facilities. But Tesla, they don't buy in this kind of solution. Tesla, they only use camera. They don't have LiDAR. Tesla doesn't have LiDAR. Because the camera can be more flexible than LiDAR. LiDAR is just like laser to detect the obstacle, the objects around you. But the distance is quite limited. Where your car speeds very fast, right? So your LiDAR have to be able to detect maybe something 100 meters away. But the LiDAR can be very costly. So that's why Tesla, they don't use LiDAR, because it's not very effective. I think I spent too much on this. But anyway, the idea is we have to adopt the hierarchical emergent behavior. Okay, so that's how you design, create a system like this. Okay, all this just explain the ideas I just described. Okay, so here give you a very simple idea. Your car will go here, but with HEB. This only tell you the destination, right? So you will go from A1 to 2, right? But here giving you more flexibility. You can go through these paths, or this path or this path, right? Depends on the sensors detect, okay, based on environment changes. So you don't need to develop a very complex algorithm. We are the priority. Level 1 is try to keep your vehicle safe. So it's going to move around to keep the vehicle in safety, right? 就是说，你 level one 就是只看你自己这一台车安不安全的而已。Okay, there is some cases. Okay, and here, if you are seriously doing the researches with autonomous vehicles, probably you need to have a tour. Okay, to simulate. So here is I just give you information. I am not familiar with this kind of tools, but this will explain the idea of hierarchical emergent behavior. Okay, so there's a information you can visit their website. You are working with autonomous vehicles projects. Okay, I think we probably don't have time to go through all this, but this gives you pretty clear ideas for all these. Okay, here if you are going to exit, you get a signal from roadside unit, right? So you go to exit. If you are not going to exit, you just continue to go ahead. And these are dedicated solutions. The second implementation uses on a more direct approach. Okay, so here give you simulations. So all of these can be done by the simulation environments before you conduct the real experiments. 这个就大概是跟你讲这个怎么去剥离这个车高速公路，大概这样。Okay, so here tell you some concept I just said. The sensors has a limitation on the detecting range, right? But the obstacle can be too far away, but your speed is too fast. You know what I mean? Okay, so you need to get the information from somewhere. That's those are unit. For example, there's an accident, right? So you will be able to get the information from the network and from the internet. Okay, so you receiver, so you can get the information earlier because the information will pass from B to C, C to A. So even though your sensor cannot detect the obstacles, but you get the information, right? So you will change your path or your trajectory. You can avoid the accident. 大概是这样。So through internet and through the vehicle-to-vehicle communication, we can improve the transportation safety. 大概就是可以这样子。And last, I would like to show you some videos about autonomous vehicles. That's a real demo in also in Taoyuan high-speed railway station. There's a place famous.好像超过时间了，哇，这个太久了。This is a company, a Taiwanese company that do autonomous cars in Taiwan. But that was 6 years ago. Okay, so that's over. Conclusion, in this chapter, we validated the hierarchical emergent behavior concept introduced in this article with no specific use cases in the autonomous vehicles domain. We advanced further the HEV approach to Anyway, the concept introduced to two specific cases. Proposed hierarchical drone, car, and fog computing support the vehicle to ISU, low-sign unit, onboard unit. Okay, so let's take a 10 minutes break. Hey, 没有